In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a vanity. First thing I'm going to start with here is take a 4x8 sheet of 1/2 inch and just go ahead and rip that right down the middle and cut that to a length of 72 inches. And then I'm going to use my round over router bit and just kind of give it a nice finishing edge look here. Once I get done with that plywood, next thing I'm going to do is grab my 1x2 and cut 8 at 22 1/4 inches and 8 at 22 inches. And these will be the boards for the frame for the bottom shelving part. I'm going to take those 22-inch boards and go ahead and put some pocket holes in there. And once I got all those pocket holes drilled, I'm going to take those 22 1/4, kind of set them on top of those 22-inch boards and go ahead and screw those together. And then I'll grab another 1x2 and cut 4 at 14 inches. And this will kind of be the top bracing that will kind of hold these together for the shelving. Next, I'm going to grab that 1/2 inch plywood and cut 4 at 22 1/4 by 22 1/2, and this will be the inside and outside portion of the bottom shelves, and then 2 at 17 7/8 and 23 inches, and this will kind of be the back panels here for the bottom shelves. I'm going to use 1-inch finishing nails to kind of apply this plywood to the side of the shelving here. Now I'm going to apply the hardware for the 6-inch legs, and I also cut a 4-inch 1x2 at a 45-degree angle to help give a little bit more support for the shelf, but also for the legs here. Now I'm going to grab my 1x3 poplar board and cut 4 at 21 inches, 4 at 11 inches, and 1 at 70 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of pre-drill some holes, and this will be the kind of front portion, the finished trim work that you're actually going to see. And I'm going to leave about a 2.5 inch gap for that top board to go across that we'll see here in just a few minutes. I'm going to take those 11-inch boards and go ahead and drill some pocket holes in there. And I'm going to turn the shelving upside down. This one will be for the bottom portion of the trim, and the one will go in the middle. Just kind of dead center that, and I kind of hold a clamp here to kind of help hold it as I drill these together here. And now I'm just going to cut some 1x2s to kind of fit them across the middle here. This will be the support for the actual 1/2 inch plywood shelving portion of it. And I also put some pocket holes in there because the screws would kind of really help give it a little more stability than just using finishing nails. And here's kind of something what it would look like once you get done. And here I'm just kind of repeating the step to the other side of the shelving unit here. And I left that outside plywood off, that way I can kind of easier work on the inside, but eventually we'll have all 3 sides covered with that 1/2 inch plywood. I'm going to grab that 1x3 board that we cut earlier, the 70-inch one, and go ahead and about every 4 or 5 inches drill some pocket holes in, and this will allow us to use 1 1/4 screws to attach to the actual top portion of the plywood that we're going to put in here in a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some pocket holes on the back portion of those shelving units, that way that plywood will be able to attach real easy. Now we're going to go ahead and grab that 1/2 inch plywood that we cut earlier and go ahead and place that on top. And you should be able to have about 1 inch on the 2 sides and about 1/2 inch on the front. And as I'm putting screws in, I'm just kind of checking to make sure I have my measurements all the way around to keep it nice and even. And here I cut 2 1x2s at 35 inches. And this will really help support the back portion. I actually left that without any plywood on the back to keep it from being too heavy. But these 1x2s are really all the support that it needs. I went over this with 220 grit sandpaper just to kind of make sure it was nice and smooth. But after that, I'm going to go ahead and apply some stain. I'm using a red oak stain here, and I'm just using a rag and going with the grain of the wood and just kind of giving a nice even layer, not really pressing hard, but taking my time with this portion. And after it dries, I'll go ahead and put a second coat on here. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab those 1x2 poplar boards and cut 4 at 26 inches, 8 at 9 inches, and 2 at 69 1/2. And this will be the pretty much the face trim you'll see for the shelving portion on the top part of the vanity. Once those are all cut, I'm going to grab two 26-inch pieces and put two 9-inch pieces in between them, one in the middle and one in the bottom. And once those are done, I'm going to go ahead and grab that 1/2-inch plywood, and this one I'm going to use for the shelving. Typically I wouldn't use plywood, but to make it a little bit easier and to save a little bit of money, I'm cutting two at 11 1/4 by 10 1/2, two at 9 1/4 by 10 1/2, two at 37 1/4 by 11 1/4, and two at 27 1/4 and 11 1/4. And I'm going to grab the 37 1/4 by 11 1/4 and the 27 1/4 by 11 1/4, and that will be the two side portions that you see I have assembled together here. And then in between those two would be a 11 1/4 and a 10 1/2, and that'd be the shell portion. And I use a finishing nail here, 1.5-inch nails. Not everybody has a router. I could use a router to put a 1/2-inch slot in there on those trim pieces, but instead I'm just going to use a finishing nail. It's a little bit simpler, and since it's really not going to be a lot of weight on this, it'll be able to hold the weight just fine. Now that those two side portions of the top part are built, I'm going to go ahead and grab that 69 1/2-inch trim piece, put that up, and also grab two 1x2s and cut them at 47, and those will fit perfect for support of the shelf that we're going to cut here. And this plywood will be cut at 68 1/2 by 11 1/4, and I went ahead and finished the nails to kind of hold that all together there. And then I went ahead and put the last four pieces of those 9-inch trim pieces up, and there'll be one on each end and two in the middle. And also that top portion at 69 1/2, the last trim piece will be put together there. And now this is all kind of tied together here. And those last two plywoods that we have that are 9 1/4 by 10 1/2, those will go in the center here, and those just have some finish nails to hold those together. And I just put a 1x2 across the back to kind of help staple it. And then this last piece of plywood will be 68 1/2 by 11 1/4, and that'll go on top there. And this will really kind of tie everything together and give it good strength and stability. All right, next, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to build two separate chairs, just because in my situation, I have two girls that are going to be using this. And what I'm going to do is going to grab a 2x4 and cut 4 at 12 inches and 4 at 10 inches. And from the top part of the chair, I'm going to get a 1/2-inch plywood and do 2 at 16 1/2 by 12 inches. And this will just be a real simple chair that I'm going to use 1.5-inch pocket screws to kind of help hold it together. And I've just got some hardware here for some legs, apply on each corner of the chair here. And I just use 14-inch legs, just to kind of give it a little extra height, and in this situation it's going to be a perfect height. Now that stain has had good time to dry, I'm going to go ahead and apply a coat of polyurethane here, and just use a paintbrush and go with the grain of wood, just give a nice even coat. And once that dries, I'm going to grab my sander and 220 grit sandpaper and just kind of go over it all to make sure it's nice and even. And once that's done, just kind of take a wet rag and wipe it off. And once I get all nice wiped off, I'm going to get and apply another coat. Same thing, just using a paintbrush, going over it nice and easy, and going with the grain of the wood. And I like to do 3 coats. Some people sand it the second time. I don't think it's necessary. Every time I've done it, it's always worked out better just applying that 3rd coat after that 2nd coat dries. And this just gives a nice, real glossy shine here. Next, I'm going to show you how to make a real simple door, kind of like a barn style door here. I'm going to grab a 1x3 by 1/2-inch poplar board and cut that 6 of those to 20-inch lengths, and then a 1x2 that is 3/8-inch thick poplar board and cut that to 14 7/8. And I'm going to put each of these slits together here, and when I'm doing this, I'm going to make sure I nail on the back side. With finishing nails, I'm also going to glue in between each one and make sure that those grain of the wood are going in opposite directions. Just looking at the end of those woods and make sure those lines are going opposite. And this is just a real simple door, but gives a nice kind of barn door look to it. And here I'm going to grab that last little bit of plywood I have and cut a 22 1/4 by 23 3/4, and this will be the outside panels that'll kind of close everything in. And for the last of the shelves that we have, I'm cut 22 1/4 by 16 7/8, and you should have a total of 4 shelves on the bottom here. I'll go ahead and close that up with those 2 outside panels. I used all these measurements to be able to fit a mirror that I had, just kind of an old mirror that we had. I was going to take out of the frame and kind of redo my own wood frame here that kind of match with the style that I'm doing of a vanity here. So I'm cutting some 1x2s to the length that I need. My mirror is 26 by 44, so I'm cutting 2 that are 27 inches and 1 that's 43 1/2. And I'm going to take a 1/4-inch router bit, about a 1/4-inch depth, and kind of run it through there, get a nice new slot for that mirror to kind of slide into. And once I have that all put together here, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the back. And I put some L brackets here to kind of help hold it together, you can see, and kind of keep it from falling backwards. And I also use some L brackets on the two side shelves on top, on the bottom, that way it won't get pushed off or pushed over or anything like that. And here's the finished product. You can kind of paint whatever color you want. We're going to kind of do a whitewash stain, but I thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it beneficial and hope you learned something new. And if you subscribe to my channel, I plan on putting some more DIY and how-to videos up that are kind of more affordable, not too expensive. That way you can do your own affordable backyard projects.